everyone. This is Sarabjeet. You're watching this in the Business Analyst in Demand or In Demand Business Analyst YouTube channel. For most of you, if you guys are new with me, give me 1 second. If you guys are new with me, I'm Sarabjeet. I've got a ton of experience in business and analyst, in project management, and in my Facebook group and on my YouTube channel, I do lots of free trainings. If there's other topics that you guys would like me to train on, just let me know in the comments, and I'm more than happy to talk about those topics. Today's topic, however, we're going to be talking about business cases. Oftentimes people ask me, where do projects come from? How do business analysts get assigned to those projects? How do product owners, Scrum Masters get assigned to those products? So today's topic is where do projects come from? How do we do business cases? And then how do projects come to work on as a business analyst, as a product manager or product owner or a Scrum Master? So we'll be talking about that. I do like these sessions to be interactive. So if you do have questions, please stop me. I do hear some background noise, so I'm going to be putting everybody on mute. If you do have questions, like I just said, I do like these sessions to be interactive because sometimes I may talk about things and I've been doing this for 15 years and I may not be explaining it to you as well as I could be. So I do like this interactive approach. So do stop me if you have questions. I've put everybody on mute for now just so we can reduce some of the background noise, but unmute yourself and ask me as you have those questions and don't wait till the end. All right, sounds good. I do have, as always, a PowerPoint presentation created for you guys. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll talk about where projects come from. 1 second. Okay, we're starting. That was me again. All right, here we go. So where do projects come from? Generally, so I've created this, if you guys know me and have worked with me, you guys know that I truly do love working with workflow diagrams. And the reason why I do love working with workflow diagrams is because it helps to simplify things in a pictorial view or a picture view for people to understand. And so that's what I've done for this presentation as well, excuse me, is to showcase, you know, how generally do projects get assigned to us to work on as business analysts. Most of you guys are in this group or watching this video because you're interested in becoming either a business analyst and or a Scrum Master. And those are the two topics that I provide lots of training and mentorship on, along with training, and I help you guys transition into those careers. So with that said, let's look at how, and this is this diagram represents probably 95% of the 95% of the companies follow a similar process to what you're seeing here. Now, the caveat is, and the disclaimer is, that all companies do work a little differently, but 95% of companies follow some sort of a structure process of assigning and working on projects, right? You don't just walk into work and your management or leadership just hands you a project without doing any thought process or understanding of why they're going to work on something, right? Because as we all understand, IT projects cost lots of money. They cost lots of specialized resources to work on those things, and therefore they're not very cheap, right? It's not like you can spend a couple of months working on it and decide you're not going to do it anymore just because you have a new shiny object to work on. So here's generally the process that we follow. At the executive leadership level, right, they always allocate X amount of dollars in the budget each year to doing projects, right? Because they understand IT is a pivotal part of the business. They need those things to, allow the teams to prosper and do well. So they always have an X amount of budget set aside for projects. The types of projects that we generally see are compliance projects. We have projects. Guys, I'm seeing some background noise. If you could all put yourself. Okay. The types of projects that we generally see are compliance, new products, tools, and etc., right? And enhancements to existing systems, right? So these are generally the three different categories of projects that we see. Compliance projects are projects that are mandated by the industry or the government for companies to do. So these types of projects, there's no question that we are going to do those, but those are also a category of projects that we generally see that business analysts and product managers, Scrum Masters are assigned to, right? The other ones are like new products or tools that, you know, companies or teams want to use. And the reason why you see these different colors here is because each department in a company will want to do some sort of bring in an IT tool or service or something to make their lives a little bit easier and optimize their, you know, whatever it is that they're doing at the company, right? Generally, we'll have, you know, many different departments. I've listed just the basics: marketing, accounting, IT, operations, or whatever else you may have. But generally, for new products or tools, all departments will want, or, you know, if they have a need, will submit something called a business case, and we'll get to what that is. But generally, all departments will submit their own business case on what it is that they want. And then for teams that all have existing systems and they may want enhancements to them, or, you know, sometimes we onboard tools such as like ServiceNow and Salesforce, or like, you know, things that we buy off the shelf. Those require service packs or like, excuse me, upgrades. And those are these types of projects that, you know, for things that we have already in our company under our umbrella, we need to go back and make some sort of enhancements to those. So these are the types of projects. So can you imagine from each of the departments, you're getting business cases, even from compliance, they'll write up a business case, and that generally is presented to the PMO. So PMO stands for Project Management Office. Not all companies have a project management office. If your company does, Project Management Office is the entity or the department that looks at all incoming requests, looks at the ROI, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and works with leadership, executive leadership, to understand which projects we need to do this year versus put them off for next year. Once they review the business case, projects are then assigned, and then they are then assigned to project teams, product owners, product managers, Scrum Masters, and such. So I'll pause here for a second. Any questions on this diagram? Okay, great. So what is a business case? So on the right-hand side, I've looked for a sample on Google. You guys, if you're not using Google, you really should be. One of the other most common questions that I get asked is, can you send me a template? And they're available on Google, you guys, you know, so find one that you feel comfortable with and use it. So this is one that I found on Google, and generally the areas that you want to make sure that you're covering for a business case are, you know, what is the contribution to the business if we work on this project? What are the other options that have been considered before coming up and talking to management about spending $500,000 on an IT project, right? What are the benefits to be gained with doing this project? What is the typical time frame? What's the cost? What's the expected rate of return for the company? And what are the known associated risks with this project? And again, because we haven't dived deep into this project, so people, generally managers that want to consider this, would write this up at a high level, presented to executive leadership or their project management office for consideration, to get the budget and resources to work on this project for this year. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so here's where the numbers, like generally, people generally have an easy time writing up, you know, what the benefits are going to be, what the time scale is going to be. But generally what management is looking for is the cost and the expected return, right? That's a little difficult to come up with. And this is generally where they're very focused on, to say, understand how much is it going to cost the company, right? How much money and what types of resources are needed, as well as what is this going to do for us, right? So if we're going to spend X amount of money, how much time and energy is it going to save for the company? So what I decided to do for this presentation is our project for my fourth batch just kicked off about 2 weeks ago, and we're working on building an AI product. And so I thought, why not do a business case for our AI product that we're building? So here it is, you guys. Here are the numbers. So what we are working on for is an AI product, which is artificial intelligence. And we're building something that will be answering phone calls for a busy franchise, right? A pizzeria franchise, answering calls when it's hard for them. For example, let's say if it's peak hour, lunch or dinner, they're missing lots of calls because their capacity, as you guys know, with COVID, there's lots of labor shortages, right? We're not able to get a lot of people at work. And even when those people are at work, they can only answer one phone call at a time, right? So here's some of the numbers at a high level. So their high volume stores are missing about 50 calls a week, and about their average stores, they're missing about 25 calls. Average ticket price per customer is about $25. So each week, each high volume stores are losing about 1,200. Average volume stores are losing about 625. Here's the monthly revenue. Here's the annual revenue per store. They have in total 65 locations, right? So for high volume stores, that's $2.4 million that they're losing each year. And for average volume stores, 750,000. And the reason why you see this in yellow, this is different from the store metrics. This is the hours that we'd be able to reduce if we are able to get this product launched, right? So we're saying that we'll overall across the board, we'll be able to reduce 20 hours per week per store, which average hourly wages are $15 each week. They'll not have to pay $300 monthly, $1,200 annually, $1,400, and this is the year. And I'm not 100% sure I did by 65, but let's just assume those numbers are correct, right? So if we are to build this product and are successful, we'll save this one business $3.5 million. That's our best guesstimate based on the numbers and the assumptions that we took to build this out. So what does that look like? These are the numbers that I just talked about. And the cost estimate for build. So lots of times people are like, well, how would you know the estimated cost? Generally, when we're working on creating a business case, you would talk to a development team, and say, here's what the high level scope of this looks like. How much estimated time do you generally think it would take? How many resources, like development resources, do you generally think it would take? And I did the same thing. I'm building this product out. I think for the software and the infrastructure, it's going to cost us about $10,000. For development for 3 months, I think it's going to take us 3 months to build. It's going to cost us $60,000. Our BA, PM, and QA resources is going to be about $15,000. Generally, it's going to cost us $85,000 to build. The year-over-year maintenance is going to be a lot larger, right, cost, because we're thinking about putting in a call center along with this. So for that purpose, and then for all locations, I think it's going to be around $500,000 to maintain this product. But even with that, so we talked about return on investment, right? So investment gain, return on investment, you get by understanding what your investment gain is divided by your investment base, right? So when I did those numbers on the initial build, it's a huge number, but even ROI year over year is still a pretty decent number, meaning that we should still consider moving forward with this project. So now, based on looking at the numbers on this project versus other projects that are submitted with the business case, leadership or management would most likely be okay with us working on this and giving us the money and the resources to work on this. So that's generally how projects are presented to leadership and management before they're assigned to you guys. So what happens next, right? The other considerations that leadership will consider is, do we have the budget to build? The numbers look awesome, right? This is like a no-brainer when we look at the numbers, but do we even have the budget to spend that much to gain that much back, right? So these are the numbers that we're losing right now. But if we don't have the $85,000 at the company level, then we cannot move forward. The other thing that could happen is that the project is approved, and then what they may come back with, leadership may come back with, is this is a great project, but now we need to figure out, should we buy this or should we build this, right? Buy means that we would go out and do lots of market research and figure out what the best tool out there is for us to buy something versus spending the $85,000 in the first year to build this out, right? So again, the project could be approved for build, right? If it is approved for build, we have to look at our internal resource strength, right? And there's lots of specialized skill sets that are needed to build something like this, so, or any project for that matter. So some of the other considerations can be is, do we even have the resources, the right resources, the skill set to build something? And if we don't, sometimes, most of the time, we'll go the buy route, which is buying something off the shelf, softwares like Salesforce and lots of other plug and play tools are available where they've invested so much time and money, and they've brought it up to a level where companies like, huge companies can go now buy software and do lots of configurations and make it work for them. So these are the two options that could happen at the end of the business case. If that is, then you'll, depending on what the decision is, the decision could be to go back and do analysis on what's the best route, buy versus build. The project could be approved to build, and the project could be approved to buy, in which case you will do a deep down market analysis. You'll be sending out RFIs, RFPs to vendors that are available and do the same things that you're looking for, as long as they meet your business requirements. Or the project could just be rejected. And if it is, then you guys will never see that project or ever get to work with it. So that's generally how you guys get assigned to projects if they move forward. Any questions? Lots of you guys don't see this because they really get to work on projects when they're assigned. And this is the before projects become projects process that typically leadership and management works through before you guys get to see these projects. Was there a question?
Yes, please. Please, what's the full meaning of RFP to RFI?
I'm sorry, what? One more time?
RFP in your last slide. RFP, yeah.
What does it mean?
Yes, please.
Okay, RFP is request for information. RFI is request for information. RFP is request for proposal. So generally, if they think that they, can buy software, on a monthly subscription or annual subscription, then they will send out. What business analysts will do is work with your stakeholders and gather all your business requirements, draft up questions on how their software works based on the specific requirements that you want, and then send RFPs, requests for information or requests for proposal, to those companies and say, I have a need to do X, Y, and Z. Do you meet that need? Yes. And if so, how, does your software work? So these are the things that when companies respond with, you as business analysts will review those and make a determination on which product, along with your stakeholders, do you want to move forward with in the final rounds of negotiation. So I've simplified this process. It's a lot complicated, but these are the types of projects that business analysts can work on. Does that help?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, you guys?
Hi, Sarabjit. This is Amit from Toronto.
Hi, Amit.
Hi. Actually, I just wanted to know that once the business case been finalized, right? Is there any chances to later on, along with the project, it could change, or if there are any changes been made after once the project's been started.
So you have to understand that when we do the business case, it's very, very high level scope, right?
Yes.
So as we work with our stakeholders, our scope could be either, not, I don't want to say modified, but there will be more things that will be working on the project than those that were mentioned on the business case, generally just because the business case is at a very, very, very high level, assessment of whether the company should work on the project or not. So generally, if you're looking at scope, you'd have to make a judgment call with your management to say, if it's a lot of stuff that if there was a lot of stuff that, is outside of the scope, from what we talked about at the business case, then probably you would not work on that. But if it's like little things here and there, then generally that's okay to work on.
Yes, got it. Just one last question. So how if just in case if any changes been happen, then how it goes through the process? Like, did it go through the change control board or?
No, so a business case is only done to get approval on projects. I think what you're talking about are requirements. If requirements are changing, right, from what's been signed off, there's two different scenarios. We have something called the waterfall. And in that, if requirements are signed off, then you do need to follow a structured change management process to get those requirements approved. If you're in the agile environment and new requirements do come up, you do have the opportunity to add them in the product backlog and prioritize for the upcoming sprints on when and where those new requirements should be added. But for a business case, it's high level, it's to get approval from management and leadership to see if we should even spend time and money on this project. So no need to go back and change the business case and all of that stuff.
Got it. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarabit.
Hi.
I was wondering, is the business case the same thing as the project charter?
No, business case is very high level. Project charter is once management says, okay, go ahead, work on this project, then you're going to draft something a little bit more detailed, which is a project charter, which identifies like the resources and, a little bit more detail about the project versus the business case. So you have two different audiences. For the business cases, leadership and management. For the project charter, it's for the project team that is going to be working on the project to understand the scope and the resources and things like that. So different audiences, different reasons for doing those things.
Okay.
Hi, sir. Isha here.
Hi, Isha.
Hi. So, do we, under business case, do we require gathering requirements?
No. Generally, when you do a business case, there may have been some sort of I wouldn't call it requirements gathering, but just interest to work on this project. So let's say if I am part of, so I'll give you a real example. I was managing the project management office in one of the companies I worked at, and I noticed that they didn't really have a tool to manage all the incoming projects. So what I did was I talked to my peers and I said, wouldn't it be great if we had like a centralized system to log all of our projects, everybody could see what's out there and things like that. So that was just me collecting interest and seeing if my peers, who were not going to be the people to sign off, but just to make sure that I was kind of headed in the right direction, that I was wanting to write a business case about a project that would be accepted well by my peers who were product owners, right, of lines of business. So what I did is I just kind of talked to my peers and I said, is this something that would be of interest? Should we, would this help you manage your job a little bit better? And once I got, good response from that, then I went to my manager, who's the VP, and I said, I'm going to write a business case. I would like to submit a proposal for working on this. We need a centralized tool. This is how much it's going to cost. And this is the benefit. And at that point, I couldn't identify what the benefit was going to be except for efficiency. And lots of projects are done at the company level for more efficiency and consolidation and things like that, better reporting, that may not have like a strict dollar return on investment, but things that make it easy for employees to do their jobs. So that's a real life example of how I managed it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, you guys?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yep.
So if we are working in agile environment and requirements are changing, then we do not need a change request, right?
Requirements. So are you talking while you're in the sprint? So tell me when those requirements are
So
changing.
no, so suppose we are good with the sprint, but whatever we have in the backlog, they are adding more. They didn't add first. Then we do not need any change request, right?
No.
Okay.
In Agile, we don't generally have change requests
Right.
because, again, the whole concept of Agile is that we're flexible and we're nimble, and we realize, and the team is okay, we add to the product backlog.
Right. And the next question is, so suppose product owner is giving that document to the business analyst, and they are writing the requirements and they are adding into the backlog. And it's the agile environment, and PO is not, so suppose PO is not reviewing all the requirements. So how to know, like how to make sure like all the requirements are authentic, like whatever you have, that was the actual expectation. So how to make sure that?
So those you should be reviewing during your product backlog grooming sessions, right? Are you having those sessions with your product owner and your project team?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you should be reviewing the, that's a typical interview question, you guys. When development is busy on the current spring, what are you guys doing? And what you should be doing is consistently reviewing the backlog, looking at new things that are added. For user stories that are in the backlog that aren't complete, you need to be working with your product owner and your stakeholders to define those requirements and, continue to refine those user stories. So, Prabjo, that's the opportunity that you have to work with your product owner and your project team to make sure that the user stories are good enough for us to take to the next sprint.
All right. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions, you guys? Okay, as I said, I enjoy doing these sessions. Let me know if there's other topics of interest, either in the comments or if you're watching this on YouTube or in the Facebook group, leave your suggested other training sessions in the comments, and I'm more than happy to do so. I'm doing about 2 to 3 times of these sessions a month. I have kicked off my training and it's going pretty well. We're working on live projects, and that really is exciting, and with that a lot of work. So I'm having a little less time to do more of these sessions, but I am making it my priority to do these sessions as well. So with that, you guys, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for all the questions, and please keep letting me know what topics I can continue to train on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Great rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you guys. Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye.